David Goggins is the poster child for leaning into the grind and accomplishing anything that you set your mind to. Here's what he has to say for the difference between motivation and discipline. He says discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Motivation is crap. Motivation comes and goes. Clearly, Goggins believes that you should focus solely on discipline and screw motivation and everything else that comes with it. Here's why I completely disagree with that sentiment. Throughout my life, especially over the past couple of years, I spent a lot of time observing what other people around me, and myself included, do in order to achieve success. I've even kept very close tabs on my own journey through this YouTube channel, journaling, talking with other people, and just looking back and observing the journey. And on top of that, now that I lead my own community, I have spoken to literally thousands of entrepreneurs to hear their side of what it takes to achieve success. From those observations, I've learned something that is incredibly surprising about success itself. You see, the people that put all of their time and effort and energy into motivation, they failed. But here's where things take a twist. The people that lean into discipline, it worked at first, but at the end, they failed too. And from that, I realized that what I actually needed to be focusing on wasn't motivation, it wasn't discipline at all. And I didn't just realize this or come up with it. I observed it through multiple sources of people who not only talked the talk, but were actually walking the walk. So once I learned what this strategy was, what it actually took to be successful, I looked back on my life and it turns out it was all about frame of mind, because when I looked back on the most pivotal moments that I'm about to break down for you guys in my career, the ones that took me from no idea what I was doing to something that actually had direction, from no money to more money than I knew what to do with. When I looked back on those moments, I realized that each one of those pivots, the fulcrum that created what we now have today, what I have now accomplished, all went back to exactly what those people were talking about, and I didn't even know it. So in this video, I'm gonna talk to you guys about what you should be focusing on, not just based on my own credibility, but on what everybody else has done that just isn't the popular thing to be talked about, right? It's not the thing that's gonna sell you some product or service. It's the thing that actually works. And if you care about what actually works, then this video is for you. And I'm not just gonna be talking about the strategy itself, what it is and all that good stuff. I'm gonna be talking about how you can take that and implement today, not next month, not next year, today, these things. And at the end of this video, I'm even gonna walk you guys through a short, simple exercise that when done correctly is going to put multiples on your productivity and effectiveness in your business without worrying about the things that you can't control. All I ask in return is that you guys like this video so that other people can get the same value that you do. Now let's start with the topic of motivation and why it is such an incredibly exciting thing when you're getting started, but such a fleeting thing in the long run. And it's because humans by design, we seek the path of least resistance, right? You can look at this in nature, in science. We can talk about it with water, right? If you've got a bunch of different places for water to go, where is that water gonna go? It's always gonna go through the path of least resistance. It's not gonna try and fit through that tiny hole if there's a big gaping hole over here that it can just flow right through. And humans are the exact way. We become motivated by new things, exciting things that we see other people doing that get us interested, and we say, I want to go do that thing. I want to jump in and go do drop shipping because I see everyone else talking about it, or sell things on Amazon, or start a business, right? All of these things that on the forefront, right, the front facing things seem incredible, but underneath it's a completely different story. And that's why motivation gets absolutely destroyed in the long run, because your motivation will only last as long as that excitement lasts, right? You're not just going to be motivated to get up early every day and stay up late every night if you're doing the same things, if you're not getting the results that you're looking for. When things start to maybe not go the way that you had intended, planned, expected, desired for them to go, that's when the motivation becomes incredibly fleeting. If you ask somebody, would they prefer to make $1 million from the lottery, or would they prefer to make $1 million from 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears, bankruptcy, struggle, late night, all of the things that, by the way, are kind of like reality of business, right? What are people going to choose? Well, 99% of the time, unless you get a psychopath entrepreneur like maybe myself or maybe you, 99% of the time someone's going to say, well, yeah, I would choose the easy path, right? Humans seek that simplicity. Like, yeah, I'll take the $1 million, I'll go do something else with it, right? Way better than having to go through that entire grind. We are always going to seek that path. You can see the same thing for animals, right? If you look outside, how come those stray cats in your neighborhood keep showing up at the door every day? Because why the heck would they go out and hunt their food when they know that you're just going to put food out for them? right? That's why animals are the way that they are now, why they come back to the same place. They live in your house or whatever it may be. They used to go hunt, right? But now they've evolved into something that just is like, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna feed me, well then I'm gonna do that. We and everything else in nature, we're always gonna seek that path of least resistance. And that, my friends, is why motivation will never carry you to the success, to the goals, to the trajectory that you have and desire for yourself, because those things are too much of a change in your life. Whatever it is that's motivating you now will not be the same thing that's motivating you next week, next month, next year. That is always going to be changing, and therefore your motivation can't just stay at an all-time high, right? It's not like when you try something for the first time, try something new, see a new potential thing that you can be getting into. You're not going to hold that in the long run. And if you can't sustain it for the long run, then it's not going to get you past much more than just getting started. And that's why we flip to discipline. Right? People always talk about your motivation is going to die out. Your motivation is not going to last forever. And when that dies out, you have to switch to discipline. That's where it goes from it's exciting to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym to I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym because I promised myself, because I said I was going to do it, because I believe in the process, right? Whatever it might be. The discipline is like that grindstone mentality, entrepreneur, successful, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, if I say I'm going to post every day on social media, I'm going to post every day on social media. Whatever it is that I say I'm going to do, whatever it is that I set my mind to, discipline is the thing that's going to allow me to do that, regardless of if I wake up and I want to do it or not, regardless of if it's what feels the best or the simplest and easiest thing to do, I'm going to do it regardless. That is where discipline comes in, and by far, in my opinion, at least from my experience, beats out motivation. Like Goggins was talking about, the motivation is crap. Your discipline is what's going to get you past that. So knowing that, why am I sitting here telling you guys that it's not motivation and it's not discipline that's going to get you there? Here's why. Discipline, just like motivation, can be unreliable because there are temptations in life, right? I personally am pretty into the whole fitness and eating well type of thing, and that's a very discipline-oriented task in general, right? I'm just gonna eat fruits and meats and whole foods and all this good stuff, and then all of a sudden I end up at a party and there's a whole bunch of chocolate chip cookies, which if you don't know is the greatest dessert of all time, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe the first time I go to that thing, I'm like, no, I've got the discipline, I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna eat those cookies. But then guess what? It turns out that party was actually a whole event. It was a 7 day long, conference, let's say, and you go back the next day. And then you go back the third day. And by the third day, you forgot to pack your lunch and all those chocolate chip cookies are there and you're like, screw it. The discipline has been overcome by temptations. I'm eating that dang cookie because I'm hungry, because it looks amazing, and because I keep seeing it every day and I just can't get it out of my mind. Yes, I know I'm talking a lot about cookies. It's because they're amazing, but you get the point, right? Even discipline is flawed. There are temptations that will inherently come into your life that will detract and distract you from the goal. Now, why does that occur, right? Think about that example I just gave with the cookies at the conference. Why does that occur? Because it's not a one-time thing, right? If you have no discipline, then you're already screwed. But those of us that do have discipline to do the things we don't want to do, to get uncomfortable, why do we still fail? Because it wasn't day 1 of the temptation. It wasn't even day 2 of the temptation. But on day 3 of the temptation, it finally got to me. Why? Because the same thing kept occurring over and over. The temptations were right there in front of me, right? If there was no food, then I wouldn't have eaten anything. But because it was right there in front of me, the temptation overcame any desire that I had for the alternative. And that is why discipline is just as fleeting as motivation. Even though discipline can last longer, right? Maybe you stay motivated for a day or a week, and discipline can motivate you for months or maybe even years. But on a long enough time horizon, discipline, just like motivation, is gonna let you fail, fall short of your goal. And at that point, we have to discuss, okay, if it's not motivation and it's not discipline, then what is this secret? What is the thing that's going to get you to the next level? And that, my friends, is the true key to success that I'm here to talk to you guys about today. It's not discipline. It's not motivation. It's changing your environment. Changing your environment is the baseline, number 1 key to achieving your goals, to the success that you are looking for, because your environment dictates everything about everything about everything. that you do in your life. Think about it. Think back as long as you'd like, right? The people that you hung out with in high school, whatever they did, I'm willing to bet that you did it too. Maybe not all the time, right? That's where the discipline kind of flirts with you a little bit. But in the end game, it's the same thing. The people in college, the people that you travel with, right? Your family members, you succumb to the environment around you. People always say the quote about, you are made up by your 5 closest friends, by the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I think everybody, you guys included, listening to this video right now, can think back on a time when that was exactly the case, right? I could give you guys a million examples, right? Of when I was in college and I had friends that went surfing every day. Guess what I did? I went surfing with them every day. Why? Because the friction wasn't there. Somebody was already doing it. I jumped in the car, went surfing, great time, right? When I moved out and became a raft guide, guess what everybody did every day? They drank beer every day, right? And so what do? We drank beer every day. Not because I don't even like beer, if I'm being honest. It wasn't because I liked beer. It wasn't because I drank a lot before. In fact, we didn't drink at all before. It was just because everybody else was drinking every day. And now, in the environments that I'm in, it might be that everybody is working long hours, right? Or coming up with new ideas. Or here's a big one. How do you know that you're with the right group of people? Well, it's because they're talking about the future and not the past, right? If that's your goal, right? If you have ambitions for more, ambitions for building something, a really easy tool is to look at people that are talking about the future and what's possible instead of the past and what's already happened. And that's just the environment, guys. It's everything. It is the key tool that you can use. And again, I want to give you guys examples in my own life, right? I learned this actually from Jerry Norton. Shout out to Jerry Norton. Once I watched a video with him where he said that he and his family move every 5 years, or every 5 years or so, he said. And the reason is exactly this. It's to change environments, to get uncomfortable, to change and remove the friction in different ways for him and his family, which is crazy because Jerry has a huge family, but I've done the same thing on a much smaller scale, right? Since Haley and I, my wife, have been married now for 4 years as the time of recording this. In those 4 years, we've moved, I think we've lived in like 5 or 6 different cities. And each time I can directly correlate, I alluded to this at the beginning of this video, I can directly correlate each one of those moves with massive shifts in my life. So when we first were getting married, we lived in Captiva, Florida, and we were building a Sprinter van to live in. And when I was there, I had all of the tools necessary to build something out like that. I had a bunch of free time, I had resources. I worked at a company that had a lot of bulk sales of things and blah, 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 right? So when I was there, I got the idea of building out a van. Why? Because the environment that I was in gave me direct access to everything that I need to do that. Right? Now, again, after that, I went out and became a raft guide. In that environment, it was a lot of hanging around, drinking beer, doing things outside. So guess what? That was a big shift for us. We started doing a bunch more things outside. I became a licensed raft guide, did all this stuff, everything that was being done in that environment. Then we moved to Jacksonville, Florida. And in Jacksonville, Florida, it was a much more homey environment. We made friends that were real estate investors there, got connected with other investors in the area. So what did we lean into? We built an Airbnb for our house. We started investing, looking at more properties to buy, joined a mentorship because that's what other people were doing, right? And then now I made the biggest shift probably, or we made the biggest shift so far, where we left Florida and moved out to what ended up being California, in a place where I'm surrounded by people now that are building businesses that are heavily entrepreneurial, that work long hours, right? All of these things. And as you guys might have seen on my channel or on my Instagram or whatever, that's what my life looks like now, right? It's not me, right? I'm not doing these things. We are making the conscious decision to change our environment, but the environment dictates how I spend my time, where I spend my time, the lessons that I learn, the ones that I take versus the ones that I don't. It's all dictated by my surroundings. And that's just my example, right? I'm sure you can look at yourself, whether it was high school or college or family members or moving or a new job or whatever it was. Those things have a severe and significant impact on what you do. So knowing that environment is the secret, environment is the key. Some of you guys might be like me, where you can just up and move to a place or change the people. By the way, guys, I'll preface with this. Changing environment doesn't have to look like my version where you move across the country like 10 times, right? Changing your environment as simple as, hey, on Friday nights, instead of going to the bar, I'm gonna go to a real estate meetup, right? That's a real world, example of something that I've done. You immediately are shifting the people you're spending time with, and therefore you're shifting your priorities, you're shifting your focus, and your actions will follow that, okay? So if you're somebody that's like, I can't just up and move, don't write yourself off just yet. Changing your environment is something that every single one of us can do right now where we're at. So let's talk about actionable steps that you can do right now, today, to get closer to whatever your goals are. Here is what I would do. Thinking about humans, right? We're looking for the path of least resistance. How can you create the path of least resistance for yourself with your goals? Well, step one is figuring out what your goals actually are. Why are you guys watching this video of me right now, right? What is your reasoning? What is your ambition? What is the direction that you're trying to go? Figure that out first. What is the goal? Next, you need to figure out, how am I going to get to that goal? And more specifically, what are the things right now that are stopping me from that, right? Really, really easy example of this exercise. If your goal is health, right? And you say, okay, I want to get healthy, which I know is a vague term, but let's just leave it at that. I want to get healthier, right? Okay, well, what are the things that are stopping you from eating well, right? If we're doing this exercise right now and you're somebody watching this that wants to get healthier, you could probably go look in your pantry and be like, all right, I've got a bunch of bags of potato chips. Turns out if I throw those potato chips away, my environment is no longer going to have those things in them. Therefore, I'm going to be able to get closer to my goal. Super, super simple. If you're somebody that's struggling with time and you spend a bunch of time playing video games, or you spend a bunch of time sleeping in, right? These are actionable, controllable things that you can change right now to dictate your environment in a more impressionable way. And then finally, with your goal, who are the people, and by the way, this requires proof, who are the people that are proven to be doing the things that you want to do, and how can you emulate what they're doing? Can you get more around them, right? Can you join a community or a mentorship that they are leading or that they're involved in? Can you get around them in person, right? Depending on who it is that you're looking up to. What can you glean? What can you take away from their lifestyle, from the actionable steps that they're putting in on a day-to-day basis, and how can you implement them in your own business? And if you do this simple exercise, I encourage all of you guys right now, like, pause this video, write down what is your goal, what is holding you back from that goal right now, and what steps can you take today to remove whatever those things are that are creating resistance, so that you can now have the path of least resistance to your goal. And everybody watching this can do this exercise and take steps towards their goal today based off of that. Not based off of your discipline or your motivation, but simply based off of what's in front of you. If only health food is in front of you, you will eat health food. If you live and sleep at the gym, you will be in the gym by definition, right? So there are these things that you have immense control over that you're not taking advantage of because it's either too hard or you just never took the time to even get started. So what are those things? Look, when I got started, I was hyped up on motivation, just like everybody else in the world, right? I learned new things, which, by the way, I've tried drop shipping and the stocks and rental properties and multifamily, everything in between, right? So I've been through this phase about 1,000,000 times where you have that high level of motivation. You're like, I can do anything that I set my mind to. And then when that goes down the drain, you flip the discipline and you say, I'm gonna just stick with it because I'm a steady grinder and I'm gonna get the job done. But when then that's gone too, the only thing that you have left is the path of least resistance. And if you can create something for yourself that makes it undeniably true that you will succeed at what you're going to do, then there will no longer be any reason for you not to do exactly like that. I have seen it in my own life. I've seen it in the lives of many other people. The power of your community is everything. So I want to close with that. Think about the people you spend time with. Think about the things you surround yourself with. Think about where you are, what you're doing, and who you're doing it with. All of those things are the most important factor to your success. And if you surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up instead of pull you down, you will reach whatever heights, whatever goals that you have. And if you surround yourself with people that aren't, then you already know why you're not going to get there. I believe in you. I know that you can get this done. Take the time to figure out how to beat motivation, how to beat discipline through your environment. If you change that, everything else will follow. Good luck. I believe in you. I know that you guys can do this because I've seen it work time and time again. So throw those things out the door, change your environment, and see what happens.